It always starts with visions of colors. And that's colors I can see in the natural world. This piece was inspired by aerial shots of Earth and how man is manipulating Earth's surface and how that's constantly changing the way Earth's surface looked. I'm a lover of color. I love studying how each color has something to say. I'm Renee Phillips. I'm a color alchemist. I'm a daughter of a scientist. He always had me working at a microscope, and my dad is from Colorado, so we would go into the woods and he would have me sit on a rock and listen to the sounds, feel the breeze, and just concentrate on my natural surroundings. So from a very young age, I was taking in the environment from a level of all the senses, which has really impacted the way I create art. Creating art in New York City is very interesting because it's a constant interplay between man and nature. Nature is constantly trying to take over. It's growing mold, dirt is covering up the wild posters on the street and the buildings, and then man is painting over it, and it's this constant fight between man and nature that you see in New York City. So that was really inspirational to me. Also a reaction to living in New York City. It's completely chaotic. When I got into the studio, all that energy would be put onto the canvas, but I was always trying to control it. And it was a lot of energy, it was a lot of action. I was always trying to control the chaos of my life and the art. From there came the meditation series, which was my need in New York City to really dial it down and turn inwards. And that's when I really started to focus on just studying color. So I started to put just one color on canvas. From there, that's when I realized that every color did something different. Every color, just like humans, it has different characteristics when put under the manipulation of environmental factors. In order to learn the color, I had to do small little studies, and those studies are called meditation studies, because I would just sit there and watch color and paint dry for hours and hours and hours until it was time to manipulate it. Some colors take 2 hours to dry and some colors take 12 hours to dry, and I didn't know that until I watched paint dry for that long. And that's why it's called the meditation series. Years of experimenting in the studio, doing things that art school told me not to do, you know, mixing oil with water. It took years of experimenting and breaking the rules in the studio to figure out that there could be things that really worked. Once things started to work, I really had to take note of them because I was essentially doing things that weren't supposed to be done with paint and material, and it was resulting in really cool things that I liked. So in order to be able to do them again, I had to start an art journal. Downpipe gray mixed 4:1 with rock candy gray and red earth. All mixtures in cups poured at 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The AC on 45 minutes. They were tilted and manipulated 2 hours later at 10:30. Result, perfect ripples. That was a good one. Sanded 3 hours later. Sprayed with poison and butter 12 hours later. The temperature and the humidity in the room changes everything, so I need to make sure I document the temperature, the humidity, time of day. At 10:30, it was tilted, dried for 12 hours. Layer 4 was added the next day at 5 p.m. Dried for 12 hours, 39% humidity, then sprayed. Result, crackling. I realized that every color wanted to react in a different way to each element, whether it was wind or water or gravity. I can only get certain effects from certain colors. So the teal spray paint that I used, mixed with the light peach paint, mixed with a little water, I know now is going to give me this ripping apart effect because the oil mixed with the water and the enamel paint has that type of reaction. And if I hit it with wind and gravity at a certain point, it's going to give me something different. So if I want to add droops and ripples and more of a sculptural effect, I can do that at a certain point in the dry period. This piece makes me feel both calm and anxious. I mean, the cracks inevitably give me like a sense of anxiety and fracture, but the coolness of the gray is very calming. I mean, and that's what the surface of earth does, which is soothing and cracking and ripping apart all at the same time. I find inspiration from moving my body with the paint. I love being an active painter. That's why I put the paintbrushes away at a certain point in my practice, is because I wanted to use my body to create the artwork rather than the paintbrush to create my artwork. So that's when I started to really pour paint in large quantities. It's in moving around the canvas with my body, with the paint, that gets me super excited every time I'm in the studio. I like to keep the drips that come off of the paintings because I can rip them off of the plastic and then reincorporate them into other works of art. This is enamel paint that I've poured on enamel and polymer. I've poured on a piece of plastic that I can then rip off and kind of use sculpturally, like this, in other art forms. And I can reincorporate things like this into paintings to give me more sculptural-like effects. This piece is getting into my liminal series, which is really about freezing moments of time in the transition from one phase to the next. When this piece is about halfway dry, I'll manipulate it in such a way where the ripples will dry. So it's basically freezing that moment in time. It's called the liminal series because liminal means anthropologically that you are in a moment of transition. You are neither here nor there. And so that's how I felt in pregnancy, and that's what I wanted to accomplish in my paintings. This piece took me over 3 years to create, actually. So you can see through the layers the amount of time that it took me to do, because each one of the layers took weeks, if not months, to dry, and then I needed to live with it for long periods of time because it's a large scale piece. So this really reflects some of the first layers that I put on the canvas with enamel, spray paint, gesso, water, manipulated with large swaths of wind. And it really covered the whole canvas. And from there, I went into layering with really thick pours of enamel and medium. And I did that layer by layer, interspersed with thin layers, and then I would hand sand those down. So some of these thicker moments that you see with the ripples took about 3 months to dry, which is why the piece took me 3 years. And this piece is called Earth Body. So So combining different colors is an interesting way for people to have their own inner conversation with the painting. Colors hold memories for people. I just want people to be present when they view my art. Everybody is going to have a different memory, a different story when they are looking at art, and presence is hard to come by these days, so that's what I want them to experience, is presence. I'm always experimenting in the studio. That's what's most fun for me. I'm experimenting with new materials, paint, elements. I'm working on the liminal series now, but who knows, I could be working on a new series and not even know it.